Come on. Come on. Well, hello. Super helpful kid here. Today I'm planting some things in the vegetable garden, which is not only momentous because it's the first thing I'm planting in the vegetable garden this year, but also because I'm usually way behind and I'm sort of close to on time with these two things. And that is peas and onions today. Also, we're going to check on the garlic and we're going to do a little bit of fertilizing in here as well. So I can't find my little map that I made of what's getting planted where this year because I do try to rotate my crops around. But the main thing that I attempt to do is make sure that similar crops are moved around. And you know, there seems to be some evolving science on this idea that you need to move crops around. But I feel like I had a big problem when I was planting tomatoes in the same bed year after year after year. So as long as I have all these beds, I might as well rotate them. And I always know where the tomatoes are going to go, and that kind of sets the tone for where everything else goes, along with how much light things have. This bed, which was used for, was this tomato? No, stop, nope. This bed was, the great sweet potato disaster, and then some beets and things last year. This year I'm going to use this bed for onions, lettuce, and some miscellaneous things that pop up as lettuce phases out and other things need to come in. I used to grow onions from seed, and then I realized I didn't really have the patience for that. Onions are one of the first things you need to sow in about January if you're going to grow them from seed, and you can get beautiful onions that way. But these days I went back to the way I used to grow them, which is buying these little onion plant starts. I ordered these from Jung Seed, but Dixondale Farms is a really big one, and actually I've even found these same things from Dixondale in local garden centers, so they're around. And I apparently ordered 2 huge bundles of them. We will eat these, certainly. The 2 crops we go through the most are onions and garlic. I cannot grow enough to get us through as long as we need to get through. I just don't know where I have this much room. I will be sharing these, but I did buy 2. I bought Candy Hybrid and Patterson Hybrid, both of which are yellow ones, and they seem to store pretty well for me. Honestly, we go through onions like crazy. I mean, if we're cooking food, there's probably an onion in it. So what I'm going to do this year in this bed is I'm going to interplant the lettuce and the onions together. They work pretty well together. Well, there's multiple reasons I'm doing that. One, they work pretty well together because their roots are at 2 different levels, so you really don't interfere with one another while they're growing. You could make the argument that onions would help keep things like rabbits away from your lettuce. Rabbits can get in here and do on occasion, and I know that because they have their babies in my bed. And every single time I've had a rabbit make a nest in this garden, they do it in the onions. And I am convinced it's because they know that it will help hide the scent of those babies from predators, which is smarter than I would normally give a rabbit credit for. The real reason I'm doing this is because I saw a picture of someone growing them that way and I thought it was pretty. And I do like my vegetable garden to be pretty. By the way, speaking of pretty, one of the things on the agenda is to re-stain all of the beds, but it really hasn't been warm enough to do that yet. So it's not exactly optimal that I'm planting in here before I stain them, but these things won't be grown enough to make a big difference. So the only other thing about onions, they're quite easy to plant, especially this way. The only thing to note about onions is that they are super heavy feeders. So I am going to mix in some fertilizer right from the get-go here. And really you should stay on top of the fertilizing. I'm not always great with it, and I think I could get bigger onions if I really wanted it, but I don't actually need huge onions. I just need a lot of moderately sized onions. Now this is a bed that maybe I added compost to last year, but it's pretty well topped up. So I don't need to add anything to this. I don't like my raised beds, the soil level of my raised beds to get too low. So I do top them up if they are getting low, but this one is actually perfect. So I think what I'm going to do is long strips along each side and maybe 2 rows down the middle, and then we'll plant stuff between. So I'm just going to draw myself a little line here that I will more or less follow casually. And maybe we'll just alternate which kind of onions we put in. Since I tend to get so many in a bundle, I always pick out the biggest ones and plant those first. I'll share these with my mom as well, but there are like tiny little ones in there, like this, and then we have big fat ones. So I plant the big fat ones. All of them will turn into onions, but if I'm not necessarily going to use them all, I'm going to start with the best ones out of the bundle. I think 3 or 4 inches apart is the general recommended spacing. Again, you know that I don't get too, you don't need to help. No, no, please don't. No, leave it. Darwin, no. Yes, I know onions are bad for dogs. I don't actually think he's interested in eating it. I think he's interested in playing with it. Give that to me. Leave that. I think we'll do 2 more rows here. So I'll do 1 here, and then we'll plant the lettuce between this. And then, like I said, the lettuce will have its time, and then we can move out from there. But of all the things that I plant in the garden, the things that we eat the most, like I said, are onions, garlic, lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers. So that's probably the things that are, but I also like things like beets, and I like Swiss chard. Mr. Much More Patient does not like Swiss chard. What else do I like? Oh, squash. I really love winter squash. I also love zucchini as well. So, oh, beans. I love beans. Peas, which we're going to do next. I guess I like all the things. Oh, and kale. I like kale a lot too. I don't particularly love, I don't, period. I don't like broccoli and cauliflower. That's never been my thing, but Mr. Much More Patient does like those. So sometimes I grow those if he'll eat them. Okay, I'm actually going to wait to fertilize until I'm done with everything because I don't want him eating fertilizer. So this is where my peas start. I don't know if this is common around here, but I definitely got this trick on British gardening television, which is that you use sort of scrubby bits of twig as trellises for your peas. And I grow, these are all snap peas, and I'll tell you what varieties in a second here. But these are all bush types. They don't go up a pole or anything like that. So they do appreciate some support, but they don't need, a giant structure. This happens to be, might need 2 rows of this actually. This happens to be prunings from the smoke bush. All right, so peas. Now I know that you've probably heard that peas don't like to be transplanted, but I will tell you that I have never had luck starting peas in the ground in spring. I can get a really good fall crop of peas by planting seeds in the garden, but I have never been successful with a spring crop. So I just starting them inside, and I don't know if I have dates on any of these when I started these. They go quite quick. 3/15. So March 15th I sowed these, and I sowed, let's see what varieties we have here. I've got, these are all kind of older seeds. None of these were new this year, so you can see I had a little bit of spotty germination. Patio Pride pea, Sugar Ann, which I think is kind of a classic, Cascadia, and Little Crunch. I only got one Little Crunch, but like I said, pea seeds are sort of notoriously fickle in terms of saving them, and none of these were new seeds this year. Now, I am also using, this is my first go with those paper pots. I mentioned I had how I fit these. These are the, okay, so these are the paper pots. You can buy these at the Garden Answer store. Before that, Gardener Supply was carrying them. And the one thing that I didn't love about them was that they are a different size than regular trays. So I did share this ages ago, but you can cut off a row on each end and they will fit into regular trays. So I have been using these, but this is the first time I'm planting anything out from them. But I'll show you that the roots on these peas, these should have been out a while ago, but our weather just has not been conducive to that. So let me show you what the roots look like. Can you see all those roots coming out the bottom here? Yeah, these guys, it's not going to be an easy transition for them probably. Now, weather-wise, we're heading for a warm-up here. Peas are tough. They can certainly handle cold temperatures. So I'm not really worried about that, but I always have frost cloth at the ready should we get some funky weather. Our last frost date here is approximately May 5th. So that gives you, so we are about 3 weeks before the last frost right now. But you know, the thing with peas is that they don't like being hot. So you have to, you know, you got to time it. Otherwise, they're going to get too hot by the time they're actually producing any peas. These have been hardening off in the greenhouse for at least a week now, maybe a week and a half. There we go. Now, because this is biodegradable, I can dump all the rest of this in the compost. No. No. Okay, so we don't have the water turned on in here yet, the timers, so the drip irrigation is not on yet, which is fine. I don't like to put that in until we're absolutely sure it's not going to freeze, because it really stinks when you blow up your timers. And if you have your timers out, they will blow up. So anyway, so we'll just keep it watered this way and you get the idea of what these onions look like. And here is what the peas are looking like. I will have to reroute some of that drip, but since it's not on yet, it doesn't much matter. I wanted to show you the garlic, fall planted garlic. And this is where I've used the salt hay as a mulch, but you can see we have some shooting up here. We also have a tulip coming up, which I don't know how that got there, but that's funny. Actually, you can see in a lot of here, there's some. Now, it would be a good time to fertilize this as well, but in order to fertilize this properly, I'd have to pull back this mulch. I'm gonna wait a little bit because I don't think there's any, I think it's better to just leave the mulch where it is for now. But I did bring along my rose tone so that I can fertilize both of these two clematis, both of which got cut off when I was doing some cleanup in here. I also have strawberries growing around the edges of some of these beds, so I brought some berry tone along, and I'll probably throw some of that in there as well, as long as we're here fertilizing things. This bed right here doesn't look like much, but this is going to be one of my tomato beds this year. And because the tomatoes are the very last thing to go in the garden, I have actually used this to plant some bare root perennials that I bought. So I'm going to grow out those bare root perennials in here. By the time they're ready to get transplanted into the garden, and this is Nepeta cat's meow, by the way. By the time this is ready to go into the garden, I can get those out and then the tomatoes will be able to move in. As you can tell, I used a big dose of that salt hay in here as a mulch as well. Watch your tail there, man. Now this is the stuff he wants to eat for sure. Cover that up, I'll come back with water. Well, there is the start of the vegetable garden this year. I feel quite accomplished that I got something in the garden more or less on time, maybe a little late on some of these things. And it feels really good to get on the road to proper summer gardening. All right, thank you for watching. Have a great day in your garden. Subscribe if you like the video. We will see you soon.